All right. So to build out our document, we're going to be using each one of these JPEGs, the background and each of the buildings inside of it. So the first one we're going to use is our background layer. Remember, to open up a picture, you can either click and drag it down to the Photoshop icon in your dock, and when I let go, this is what comes up. Now if you don't see your other document, check out the very top left-hand side. So here's my untitled new document, and here's my background documents. They're just kind of docked together. If I want to see both of them, I can click and drag that off, and now I've got two different windows to work in. This is kind of the way I like to work, so I can see everything that I'm using. So how do I get the pixels? How do I get this image into this particular area? What I need to do is I need to select the area that I want to copy and copy it and paste it into this document. And so the first set of selection tools we're going to use are called the marquee tools. Check out my toolbox. Everything we're going to be doing is in these top areas right here, these four to work with. The first set, the only two I'm ever going to use are the rectangle and the elliptical marquee. As a graphic designer, I've never found a need or a use for a single row marquee tool. So these are the only two that we're going to work with. And they're also the simplest ones. The rectangle, if I click and drag, you see the little dotted line that comes around there? That's called your marquee. So you go to a movie theater and the movie that's being displayed, marquee. It's got lights going around everything. Sometimes you'll see this called marching ants. You see why it's called marching ants? It looks like little ants marching around that area. And so when I click and drag, I've got that area that's selected. I've still got the same tool selected. If I wanted to move it around, I can click on the inside area and move my marquee to select a different area. If I wanted to copy these pixels, I can always go to Edit and Copy. Notice my keyboard shortcut is Command-C. If I went over here, I could edit and paste it into there. Now, what's wrong with this? It's not the whole thing. It's not what I want. So I'm going to undo that. Edit, undo. I've still got this selected, and like I said, if you click on the inside, it will move it around. If I click just once on the outside, it'll deselect it and allow me to start again. So in this case, I'm going to start from the top and drag down. Now when I edit and copy, edit and paste, Command-V will paste. This will give me my entire area that I'm working from. Easy, easy, right? Check out my layers palette. Whenever you copy and paste something, remember Photoshop works in layers, so everything on this has its own layer by itself. So if I needed to edit or change that layer, make sure you've got the correct one selected. So that's the easiest one for the background area. We're using our rectangle marquee, this tool, click and drag. If you want to deselect, simply click off, and that'll deselect what you have and move around from that one. Let's get the circular elliptical marquee. I'm going to close it out. You don't have to save any of these. Now for the circular area, I want to create a circular moon. So I'm giving you this JPEG to work with. Drag it into here. Remember, you can click on this and drag it off so I can see both of them. Now, I don't want a square moon, obviously. So if I make a selection, that's not exactly what I want. So this is where the elliptical comes in. Remember, you can click and hold on this because it's got a little triangle at the very bottom. The elliptical is what I want. And just like the other one, when I click and drag, this will give me, it's a little bit harder to see, marching ants that go in an elliptical shape. So in this case, all it is the circle. I can move it around, place it exactly where I want. Go to Edit and Copy, Edit and Paste. Alright, so what's the problem with this moon? Nice and flat moon. Not exactly what we want. So I want a perfect circle. Here's the second tip on using these marquees. If you hold down the Shift key before you make a selection, holding it down, it will constrain your proportions and it will give you a perfect circle each time. So in this case, if I wanted a perfect circle, hold down your Shift key and you'll get that perfect circle once it's created. Now we'll do the same thing. Edit and copy and paste it into here as well. Now I've got the moon that I want to place in from here. This is a good time to show you the next tool, the move tool. If I need to move something around, in this case, of course, I want my moon to be in the upper area. This is where the black arrow, the top right, comes in handy. With it selected, make sure you've got the correct layer selected, and I can click and drag it around and place it wherever I want to place it. For yours, I'm going to let you build your city the way you want it to be built. You can move things around, place your buildings however you want it. I want mine to be right there. Cool? Okay, so that's the basics for making a selection. If I've got an area with either rectangular or elliptical, just click and drag over the area. That'll make my selection that I'm working with then. Here's one more thing I want to show you. Several of y'all ran into this when working with the touch-up tools. If you have an area selected, I'm going to grab my paintbrush tool. Watch what happens when I try to paint, in this case outside of the area. Clicking and dragging, it's not working, but check out what happens when I go inside of it. Photoshop is only going to let me work inside of that selected area. So if you ever find yourself using a tool, making a change or adjustment, and it's not showing up wherever you're clicking, that's probably because you've got an area selected, probably with your patch tool or something like that. Cool? That's your bonus for working with that. Let's get more complex. We won't save that one. Let's start actually using the different lasso tools. I'm going to open up building 1, drag it down to the Photoshop icon, and then drag it off from here. Alright, so what I want to select now is only the building. I don't want to worry about the background that we're working on. If I was to use my rectangle marquee and just click and drag over it this time, copy and paste it. Obviously, come on, what's wrong with this one? Got the background, got the gray area. So what I need to do is to deselect or just not select the background area. So I'm going to deselect this. To do this, we're going to still use our rectangle marquee tool. Okay? I'm even going to zoom in. Let's grab my zoom tool so I can see exactly what I'm working with. With my rectangle marquee, I'm going to make an initial selection. All of these are rectangles. So if I was to select one of these, I've got that top portion selected. If I wanted to select again, I'm going to hold down my Shift key and watch what appears next to my cursor. I get a little plus sign. The Shift key allows you to add on to a selection. I wrote that on the board just to remind you. So as long as I'm holding down my Shift key, I can click and drag again, and this will add on to that area. So click and drag, holding down Shift. And it may take us several clicks to do. We'll scroll down, hold down Shift, click and drag. And if I keep scrolling down, it'll quickly go, but I can stop it right there. And all I'm doing is adding on to the selection that I have. Pretty cool. So now check out the area that I have. It's following along those edges. If you accidentally, let's say I held down Shift and oops, I selected way too much. I need to get rid of this area. So if Shift adds on to it, the opposite of this is your Option key. Holding that down will give you a minus. And when I click and drag, I can deselect from that area. So now it's cutting away from what I'm working on. Click and drag and subtract it from there. And that's why I wrote them on the board. It's good to remember. Shift will add, Option will subtract. Zoom back out. Now when I copy it, edit and copy, paste it into there, I've got just my building, none of the background. All the muss, none of the fuss. Did I lose everybody? Okay, cool. Let's get more complicated. So I've got this building, or these two buildings. And I could use my selection tool, my marquee tool. We're going to add on to your knowledge of it. So for buildings 2 and 3, that's what these two are, I want you to use our lasso tool. I'm just going to show you on this first building. Won't do the whole one with me. I could use my marquee, select it over and over again. That's going to take me a long time, especially if this becomes very, very complex like this one is. So to select a little bit faster, underneath the marquee tools are these lasso tools. Think of a lasso as, you know, go to the rodeo, you've got a lasso thing. Anybody into rodeos? I have one of my majors, he's into rodeos and stuff. Okay, never mind. The first one we're going to use is our polygon lasso tool. And remember, you can click and hold on that icon. This is the one we'll select. The polygon lasso tool allows me to click, and wherever I click, it's going to add on a line. So the more I click, all I'm doing is clicking once until I go back to the starting point. I can freeform draw a shape. So this was the area that I have. Now if I click outside, it's going to start making another selection again. Whoop. So here's another quick little tip to know. To deselect something, rather than just clicking on the outside area, here's my selection, Command D will deselect my area as well. So I've got it deselected and now I can start wherever I want. So for this one, I'm just going to click at each of the little points. Very quickly I can select these straight-edged areas to work with. We'll use the scroll bar on my mouse to scroll down. Doop, doop. May take a couple of clicks. And I know it's off by a little bit. I'm going quick. This building will not fall down, I guarantee it. All it's doing is adding on to wherever I click my mouse for each time until I reach my original starting point, which is right here, and you'll see a little circle appear. Now I've got that area selected. Command C, copy. Command V will paste it. Remember, every time you copy and paste, it's going to have its own layer. So if I wanted to move this one, I can grab my black arrow, move it over to here. If I wanted to select layer 3, I can move it over here and place it wherever I want from there. To deselect, I'm going to go to Select and Deselect, or Command D, and do the same thing. By the way, we're not going to use this one, but this lasso tool is just the free draw lasso tool. I can click and drag around. This will give me a amorphous type shape to select as well. So if I was to copy and paste, I would get that butterfly selection as well. So for this one, buildings 2 and 3, use your polygon lasso tool and simply click at each corner to add on the selection that you need. All cool? Alright, let's get more complex. Close this one down. Buildings 4 and 5. These have a lot of edges to them, so I want to be able to select these a little bit faster. Drag it off. Let's zoom in. Now for this one, to select a little bit faster, I'm going to use my magnetic lasso tool. What I want Photoshop to do is, I want it to notice the edges of my building. So anywhere that has a good contrast, like I know there's green and I know there's brown, Photoshop knows there's green and brown. So I want to be able to quickly select this area based on the good contrast between these two colors. So with your magnetic lasso, notice at the very top, I've got a contrast up here. 20% means how much difference between the two is there going to be. I'm going to bump this up. I'm going to use, say, 35%. This case, I'm going to click once. I'm not holding down my mouse, but when I drag now, notice that a little line is starting to follow the area. And even if I go off a little bit, see how it's still snapping to that particular edge. It's looking for that contrast in the area that I'm working with. If I reach the bottom, I'm just going to use my little mouse scroll wheel, scroll down. And very quickly, I'm not even having to click it several times, it's adding on to that selection. Pretty cool. And I can actually go kind of fast. Let's see how fast I can go. Now it's adding little points of reference to the area I'm working with. But you see, even if I move off the area, I don't have to be perfect with my selection. So I can go kind of quick. It's looking for those two areas. And if I go back to my starting point, notice I've got a little circle on my cursor. Click on it again. There's my selection. So that's what the magnetic lasso tool allows you to do. We'll copy it. We'll paste it. Move it over where it needs to go. It looks for a good contrast between two different areas, so if I needed to quickly select that area, it works for that. All cool for that one? So those are our basic lasso tools that we'll work with. 4 and 5, you'll be using your magnetic lasso. 2 and 3, you'll be using your polygon lasso. Let's get more complex. Let's try building 6 and 7. So with this one, there is a good contrast between the two. We'll open up building 6 and 7. Zoom into this building. With this one, I still want to be able to select just certain areas of color. I know I don't want to select the yellow area, I want to select just the building colors. So to do this, we're going to use the Magic Wand selection tool. So these are our marquees, these are our lassos. The Magic Wand looks like, to me it looks like a firecracker going off, but you know, a magician's wand doing something magical. With this one, I can click on a certain area and it will select all of the like pixels in that area. So with this one, let's see. First of all, I'm going to set this to be continuous. I'll go back and show you what this is doing. With continuous turned on, click once. Now check out what I've got. It's selected very quickly all of the dark pixels. If I was to click on the white, it select just the white area. If I click on the blue, it'll select the blue area that I'm working on. Pretty cool? If I turn off continuous, let's deselect that. Check out what happens when I click right here. Now, not only did it select everything inside this area, it also selected the same colors throughout the rest of the area. What continuous allows you to do is to only select either those areas that are continuously next to your area. So in this case, I've got it selected off. And it only selects those blue, or it only selects that area. It doesn't select everything else. If you uncheck it, it'll look at your entire document and will try to find those same colors inside of it as well. Make sense? Okay. Here's the next thing to know about the Magic Wand tool. So with the Magic Wand, I've got a tolerance as well. If I was to select my tolerance to be very, very low, let's say I set it to 5. Wherever I click, it's going to look for colors within that area, and I've got a low tolerance. So notice how there's different shades and tints of blue. If I was to click on this lighter tint of blue, notice that it's only selecting the light areas. I'll even turn on continuous so we can see only that area is being selected. Because it has a low tolerance, it's only looking for a difference of about 5. If I turn it up, let's do 25. Clicking again, gets a little bit more, but it doesn't get everything inside of there. So if I wanted to select more of an area, more of a difference, make sure your tolerance is nice and high. I usually keep it around 50, 35 to 50 is good enough. So I'm clicking and adding on to that. Okay, so that's the easy part, selecting the area with the Magic Wand tool. How would I add on to this selection? I've got the blue selected. What do we hold down to add on for other selections? Shift key. Same way for the Magic Wand. Hold down your Shift key. I get my plus sign, and with Shift selected, I can keep clicking and adding on and getting the rest of my building. So that's what I'm going to do very quickly. Make sure to get the insides. But what Photoshop is doing is it's looking for similar color pixels. And just keep clicking until you get the entire building selected. You can copy it, Command C, Command V, paste it, and place it inside of here as well. All good? Same way for this bottom one. Select your marquee, Select one area and then hold down your shift key to add on or even erase away if you need to for that one. So we've got our marquee tools, we've got our lasso tools, and we've got the quick selection tools of the magic wand, and this quick selection tool will be the next one. Here's the easiest one that I love to use. I want to quickly select these buildings. Drag it into Photoshop. For this one, I want Photoshop to quickly select the area, and I love this tool because I don't have to click around. What I want to do with my quick selection tool is to just drag over an area and let Photoshop do all the thinking, do all the hard labor of selecting the area that I want. The quick selection tool works a lot like a paintbrush tool in that you can change the size, the hardness, and the spacing of it. So the larger the size, obviously the larger the area that I'm working with. With this one, I'll zoom in. I can click on one area and it starts to make a selection, but if I click and drag very quickly, it'll start to add on to that selection that I'm going over. So in this case, in just one or a few clicks, very quickly I've got that one selected. Copy it, paste it into here, and it's simply a matter of placing it right where I need to place it. Uh-oh, check this out. I've got this guy behind this one. If I need to adjust the order of my layer, check out what I have here. I've got layer 7, which is this guy, in front of or underneath layer 4. If I was to click on a layer and drag it, notice that it starts to move. I can place it on top of there, and now I've changed the stacking order for that particular layer I'm working on. You can select this one, move it down, and I can do that for any other one. So if I wanted this one to be behind this layer, first of all, I know it's on layer 3, click on it, drag it, and you can see it'll highlight, and now it's behind layer 3 to work on from there. Anywho, back to the quick selection tool. Very quickly, this would take forever if I had to use my magic wand tool. With this one, I can click and drag. You can see it's building on to my selection that I'm working with. Click, 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 click. If I do let go, and I see there's an area that I missed, I can still click and drag and paint over that area, pick it up. No problem. Looks like I got it. Command C, Command V. Uh-oh, looks like I still had my other area selected at the top. If I need to delete a layer, that's no problem either. I've got it selected. At the very bottom is a trash can. When I click on it, I'll delete it. And we can deselect and reselect the area and copy and paste it again. Did I lose everybody? Okay, that's the simple stuff. Here's the last hardest thing to do. Just in making the selections. For the tree, I want you to use two different selection tools to work with. In this case, I'm asking you to use the rectangle marquee and the magic wand tool. Y'all help me out. You tell me what to do. Now if I use my rectangle marquee, it's allowing me to make a selection just in certain areas. So I could select the entire thing. But obviously, what else do I have that I don't want selected?
White.
The white area. I want to use my magic wand tool to get rid of the white area. So I'm going to select my magic wand. How can I use my magic wand to select that area? Or to get rid of the white inside of it? What do y'all think?
Subtract.
How do we subtract it?
The option.
Hold down Option. Got my subtract. Remember, the magic wand is going to look for similar colors. So if I'm subtracting all of the white, the similar colors, I'm left with something like this. Now just my tree is selected. Pretty cool? And I can copy it and paste it into here as well. Obviously it's behind there, so I need to, there's layer 8, drag it to the top so I can see it. And I can place it down right here as well. And I can paste a couple of them if I really want to. for today, let's work on just the selection. The last thing we're going to do is add a drop shadow to the things we're working on, but let's make sure everybody gets the selection tools working out okay. Turn your computer back over to y'all and let y'all get started.